On this episode of ResiWeek, Control 4 acquires NEEO, Crestron has its new Crestron Home, and Elan's intelligent touch panels. All this and more on this episode of ResiWeek.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is ResiWeek, episode 158, Belly Flop.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by Middle Atlantic, what great systems are built on, and by Daylight, the leading producer of high-quality projection screens worldwide.
Welcome to ResiWeek. This is your weekly wrap-up of all the latest news and stories from the residential AV industry. I'm your host, Matt D. Scott for AVNation.tv. And today I'm pleased to be joined by one of my good time friends, Joe Whitaker. He is the president of the Thoughtful Home in St. Louis and Dallas. How you doing, buddy?
Glad to be on the show again. Doing well.
Thanks so much for being here. Then we have one of my other good friends from New York, Mark Feinberg. He is the president of Home Theater Advisors. How you doing, Mark?
I'm doing great, Matt. Thanks for having me on again.
Thank you so much for being here and not mentioning the Patriots. Last but not least,
trying to be good about that.
Shh, don't do it, man. Don't do it. Last but not least, we have another one of my good friends, Ted Green. He is the editor of strategy.com. How you doing, Ted?
Always good, Matt. Always good to be with you.
Hey, thanks so much. We are going to jump right into some stories that are very hot coming out of ISE. If you missed it, we were obviously at ISE. We had a ton of coverage, did a bunch of stuff. Check it out on our website, AVNation.tv, also on YouTube and on most of our social platforms. But this broke kind of late on Tuesday, coming to us from our website, from AVNation.tv. Control 4 adds NEEO to the team. The Kickstarter smart home remote has been or was acquired by Control 4. That was announced just after their earnings call on Tuesday, kind of late in the day in Amsterdam, but towards the end of the day in North America. So to talk about that very exciting story, we have Corden Vaughn. He is the Senior Director of Product Marketing at Control 4, and Margie Duffy. She is the Senior Product Manager of Interaction Devices at Control 4. So first of all, welcome to both of you. We got to spend a little bit of time with both of you guys in Amsterdam for ISE. Hopefully you had a great show. Corden, I want to start with you on this. This obviously is huge news, and congratulations to you and Margie and the entire Control 4 team. But leading into this acquisition, Control 4 in the last couple of years, you guys have been acquiring a lot of people, is kind of the easiest way to put that. You have been on a bit of a spending spree. But what I wanted to ask you was, NEEO is not a traditional AV company in the sense that they're not typical in this space. They're not someone who started in this space and has a long history in the CI channel. They come from, kind of the Kickstarter and the DIY community. How does that change, or what is the challenge in acquiring a company coming out of that background opposed to our traditional space?
Great question, Matt. I would say if we had acquired the NEEO team for the same reasons that we had acquired other companies, it probably would pose a bit of a bigger challenge. In every acquisition that we do, there tend to be multiple reasons for doing the acquisition. There's obviously a talented people at the company that you're acquiring that you want to be part of the team. They typically have a product line that you're trying to add to the portfolio as well, so our dealers can benefit from that. In this particular instance, there are a couple of unique things. One is that the founders of NEEO actually came from this industry. So they have experience, and so they kind of know how to talk the language and interact with us, and they kind of get what we as a company are doing. They had been dealers themselves, and so that I think made it easier. But the bigger issue, frankly, was that we were acquiring the company because of the team that they had pulled together. We are very focused on the end customer right now and the experience that the end customer has with Control 4. And as we started interacting with them, it became clear that they had assembled a great group of individuals that are really excellent at developing very fine products. And we wanted to accelerate the work that we're doing on interaction devices. And it just became clear that this was a team that would just help us get there faster.
Very good. Margit, you've been working with the NEEO team for a couple of months now. What's involved in integrating and onboarding a team like this to Gordon's point, where it was not just like a product acquisition, which is the easiest assumption to kind of come by when you buy a company such as this, is that it's more of a product acquisition. How is it integrating, the creative team at NEEO into the Control4 culture and getting everybody on board?
We have, that's been a big question for me throughout all of this, is how do you bring two cultures together? I mean, the NEEO team is based in Switzerland, and so Swiss culture compared to culture of Salt Lake City, but we honestly, it's been a delightful experience working with the NEEO team. They have an efficiency and a craftsmanship to the organization of their company. It's like how the beauty of a Swiss watch, they've done that with their team, in how their software teams run, how their hardware teams run, how they're testing, how they're manufacturing. That it has just been it's been really easy to plug our products into their efficient kind of channel of creating things. And it's been a delight. I've actually, I'm spending the month in Switzerland with the team. I'll be spending more time here. And so as we, part of it is just kind of cross-cultural pollination of bringing everything from Control4 that's good to NEEO, and bring everything that's good of NEEO to Control4. It's a beautiful partnership.
Very cool. Carton, this product has enamored or been something that people have been very enamored with for a long time. It's gotten write-ups in national press. It's been something that even within the CI community, even though it wasn't really built for us, we've kind of fawned over it a lot. How do you get C4 customers to really understand, where we're going to go with this, and how quickly they're going to see something, knowing that they're not just going to get a brand new remote that looks like the current one with a C4 stamp on it tomorrow?
Yeah, good question. The challenge with this particular acquisition is that because of the fact that we're a publicly held company, this acquisition is considered a material acquisition for the company. We had a bit of a challenge in that we needed to announce the acquisition of the company before we had a product that we could share with customers, which kind of goes against our overall just approach to talking about products with our customers. When we're going to introduce something new, we don't talk about it months or years ahead of time. We talk about it the day you can buy it. And in this situation, the team has been working together for a little while, but we needed to go ahead and make the announcement that we had acquired the company before all of the development work is done. We're not going to say at this point when the new product will be available, but the team is working together, and I think working together very well in delivering something that our customers are going to love, and we'll get it out there as quickly as we can. That's probably as much as I can really say. We expect that there'll be more news later this year about that, and stay tuned. Until then, know that we have a great larger team working on great interaction devices, and obviously our current product line is available and selling extremely well. We hope people will try it.
So you're not going to announce something new right now?
I'm not.
It's worth a shot.
That's a good answer.
Nice try, Matt.
Yeah, got to try somewhere. Margit, last question for you. Because of your background in UI and UX design, what was the attraction to NEEO that makes that product so cool from someone, who's really not, like, obviously you've been in the industry now for a couple of years, but you don't come from this industry. What makes the NEEO such a cool device?
I would say two things. One is I worked on the first MacBook Pro that was a unibody. There was aluminum unibody. I remember seeing the first keyboard for it and feeling like a visceral need to kiss it because it was so beautiful. And I feel like, this is the first remote where they took an aluminum unibody and carved it out. It's a beautiful thing. That's one. The other is my background is more in mechanical design, industrial design, and you can do mechanical industrial design. But if you don't have, you can do a beautiful lightweight design. But if you don't have an operating system and a software that's light and runs with low battery usage and can have a long battery life, you fail. And so when I met Raphael at ISC a year ago, and I had been with the company for a month, and he gave me a deep dive on remote controls and how they work and software and how Android works and how all these other choices you can have for operating systems were out there, and they developed their own operating system from scratch to be able to, through open source, but they developed their own operating system to be able to meet all the needs that I was trying to meet with Android and other platforms. So for us, they've actually delivered what I wanted to be able to deliver, and so to be able to bring them in is a dream come true for me.
Fantastic. Well, thank you both for taking some time to speak with us today. We were hoping to get Raphael on as well. Unfortunately, he's on vacation because, well, he just had some good news come out. So if you guys can hang around, that would be fantastic. I want to go around the horn real quick, but of course, if you do have to leave, we understand. Let's go around the horn real quick. Mark, I wanted to kind of start with you. You are in the trenches working with C4 every day. It is your go-to automation platform. I read the story that you and our friend Puma put out just the other day on ResiSys. I wanted to ask you, from a dealer perspective, again, somebody who's in the trenches every day with C4, is the excitement that we're seeing from the press side, is the excitement there, or is it hype? Is this an announcement that you're enamored with?
I'm really excited, and I think if I'm really active on some of the Control4 dealer Facebook groups and on the Control4 dealer forums and user groups and a bunch of other things. There's been a lot of people clamoring for a sexier remote from Control4 for a long time, something that had maybe some more soft buttons to it, touch screen, voice control, everyone wants everything, but yeah, the market has really been demanding this, and I think everyone's really excited to see it coming to fruition.
Very good. Joe, again, you're another integrator who works with Control on a daily basis. When you look at this announcement, is this one of those things where you get excited from the standpoint, kind of like that Mark alluded to, that there's been a question about when they're going to see, when the dealer base are going to see new remotes come from C4, something that is, not as seasoned, shall we say, as the current slate? Is this one of those things that makes you look at it and go, yes, I cannot wait to see the technology advancements that NEEO has put into a slate of something from Control4?
So I'll touch on a couple of really quick things. So number one, you talk about excitement and kind of, getting the gears already turning. I want to start off by asking Corden a question. Are you guys going to honor all those pre-orders I did at CEDIA this last year? Because we pre-ordered a lot of these remotes, like a lot. So
the short answer
how
is
many did you order? 10. Okay.
So that's how the excitement is. I know what the answer is, Corden. I know it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But you talk about the excitement. That's how excited we were. I had the whole team, the whole upper team at CEDIA this year, and that was one of the highlights I already had on the list because there was already backdoor talks about them being able to not being part of Control4, but being able to support it natively within, their platform, which I thought was exciting. It makes so much sense to me on the business portion, because me and Cord and I go back with him in beta, way back with iPod docks and other stuff, way back there, and then seeing the transition of Control4 remotes and the way they worked through the year. The V1 remote was kind of shaped like a Dish Network remote, and then you added color button keys, and then glow-in-the-dark keys, and then there was an SR250, and then, that transition happened, that the style and the function kind of went along with it. But then when a company comes out with a beautiful remote, buttons really well laid out, has a touchscreen on it, and oh, by the way, it's also built on the same OS platform the Control4 is currently using, there was a lot of bricks that all are building up this house. And then to go to think that Mr. Kendall just comes on the team, who happens to have eyes on both of those sectors, from a business aspect, it makes so much sense to make it exciting for me, who already was in love with the remote before Control4 made the acquisition, who already wanted a new remote. And I mean, it's just, it's like, things don't fall in well together like that too often. With Control4, it's happened a lot though. Package, Triad, all the things that I've already used and loved, all under one house. I am extremely excited about this remote.
Very good. Ted, I've left arguably probably the simplest question for you.
That's good. I'm a simple guy.
I wasn't saying that or implying that, but I'm glad you took it there. No, you're a good friend of mine. I know that you love analyzing everything. You dig into stuff really well. So my question for you is, how long until we see something?
From this partnership, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. I mean,
what's your guess?
People would be better at that than me. I mean, I can tell you that in general.
I know, but they're not going to answer it, which is why I'm asking you.
I mean, I don't know how long they've been talking, but in general terms, if you start a project from today, it's, 12 to 18 months before anything comes of that, but they didn't start today. So I'm sure we'll be seeing something much sooner than that from this partnership.
Excellent.
But what I would like to say is, I think that, as you know, Matt, I tend to be more on the business side of the business.
Mm-hmm.
I think very clearly what I'm seeing from Control4 and CEO Martin Pyng, who I've had the opportunity to chat with on multiple occasions, is that this is really becoming one of a key source for a competitive advantage for Control4, which is finding opportunities out there for acquisitions that provide, enhancement for some core element of what they're doing. So in this case, I think the product, and I'm not super familiar with the product. I've not had the chance to play with any of their previous designs up till now. I've read about them. I know a little bit about them. But the product is certainly one element of that. The other part of that is that, and this may turn out to be, with all due respect to the Control4 people, this may turn out to be the most valuable aspect of this acquisition, is their extensive experience now of dealing directly with consumers and getting that direct consumer feedback. It's easy in manufacturing. We're all smart people. We do our best, but it's easy to lose that connection with the end customer. We're very busy dealing with our customers, which are the integrators that are the people that we're directly selling to then resell our products. It's challenging to have that sensitivity for the end user, especially in an industry like this, smart home products, which have a lot of diversity and appeal to a lot of different kinds of consumers. I think this is one of the things they bring to the party. A lot of companies don't like to. I call it the NIH factor, not invented here factor. So they would rather roll out their own rather mundane example of some kind of an interface, touchscreen interface. In this case, Control4 went out, found an excellent example of something they thought was truly unique, and didn't just want that product, but wanted that expertise within their company. And that's just a smart play.
Very good.
Hey, Matt, can I add one thing? Just listening to Ted and everyone real quick, there's that, I always call it the opportunity of failure. So you've seen, Savant's original touchscreen remote with the iPad in it. Then you saw their second revision of the remote. Then you saw a couple from Crestron, and you saw everybody wanted that, but there were a lot of failures for all those companies along the way. Control4 so jumped into that portion of watching the failure of others and then being able to build up that success with something extremely functional and sexy at the same time, because they know everybody wants that. They see everybody else failed. So, I mean, that's one of those big business things is let's hop out with something that really is good.
Yeah, Control 4. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, Control 4 can take the rock-solid reliability we see in the SR260 and bring that to the NEEO remote. I mean, listen, Corden and Margie, I'm happy to be a beta tester if you need extra.
Oh, Corden, by the way, sign me up. It's been a while.
But I had it.
Let me just make a point about that. The NEEO team, they've sold about 15,000 remotes. They've never had one return for a cracked screen. So
wow,
that's insane.
Yeah, it's that well designed. So
let me ask one last question, then I'll let you guys go. Then, since you brought up the 15,000 units in the field and never having a cracked screen returned, how long or how is Control 4 going to support existing people? Is that something you can speak to?
Corden, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, we in fact, NEEO is now communicated to their customer base to let them know that they offer warranty on the product. The plan is to continue to support that product and warranty it for the remainder of their warranty period. They have just released or about to release a software update. And then the product kind of moves into a maintenance mode where we'll have software releases as they are needed to deal with, any, problems or issues, but it really is just in maintenance mode at that point.
Excellent. Good to know. Thank you, Corden and Margie, so much for joining us today. Just a quick thing. If people want to find out more information about, obviously, the acquisition, the NEEO products, and the whole suite of Control 4 products, where can they find that?
Control4.com.
Excellent. Thanks again so much. Let's move on to our next story of the day. This comes to us from CE Pro and the one and only Julie Jacobson, who I successfully photobombed at ISE. I was very proud about that. That's hard to do with Julie. Goodbye, Pyng. Hello, Crestron Home OS 3. There was a dramatic redesign at ISE 2019. If you have not heard, Pyng, which has kind of been the focal point of Crestron's non-super custom, super crazy residential market, is going away and is now going to become Crestron Home. This is the new OS 3, which is obviously the third iteration of what was formerly Pyng. If you haven't followed Pyng, it's been a very good product that has grown quite well over the last couple of years. But as I mentioned at ISE 2019, Crestron formally announced OS 3, which is the new Crestron Home. As a side to Julie's article, which you should definitely read, it gives a ton of background on what Pyng is as of the week before ISE and where it will be going forward, and what Crestron Home is going to be. We also did a great interview with Michael Short from Crestron that is available on our website. You can find the link in the show notes. Mark, I want to, sorry, I'm going to start with Joe on this one. Sorry, Mark, you get the last one. Joe, this is a product that I gotta say, I don't want to say I didn't love Pyng, but I was never blown away by Pyng. From a visual aesthetic, from the functionality, it seemed to be fantastic, but visually, it just never fully hit it with me. Now, again, that might just be a personal preference. That might be a whole host of things. I got to play with Crestron Home. It's really stinking awesome. Like, it looks absolutely fantastic. What I wanted to ask you and how I wanted to start this conversation off was, this isn't Pyng. This isn't Crestron Lite. Is it going to be strong enough? Crestron Home. Is Crestron Home going to be strong enough to stand alone by itself? Or is it, no matter what they do from a marketing standpoint, is it always going to be the little brother of fully customized Crestron solutions? Because that's what they're known for. Can they do enough to make this a big standalone product?
Well, not that I have an opinion about this or anything, but when we're talking about Crestron, I'm joking. So just so happen to have that right here.
Did you bring props for the show?
Yeah, I was trying to bring version 1 Control 4 remote, but it's in a box somewhere in the new office. But, here's the thing. You learn, it's another one of those learning from experience things. We watched Crestron over the years since Elan changed their strategy and Control 4 came out and Colorado VNet, and that spawned, Adagio, and then there was Prodigy, and then there was Pyng. So we've kind of watched that chasing the tail motion happening with Crestron for a long time, chasing the littler guys who are now the bigger guys, by the way. So, it was one of those, they had to have something that would be competitive in that market. Now, for the version 1 of Pyng, of course, had its issues. It was lighting, HVAC, not really any AV. Then there were some of those changes. But the fact to bring it all together is that important piece. And at that same time, you got to have some sacrifices. The original Pyng hub, yeah, that's not really going to be your way to get into it. But the ability to actually have, the interface and the stuff work if you grow the system into, an MC controller or one of the larger controllers, being able to actually transition that into a big system. That's what they've been missing the whole time, is having these two, separate, disparate things going on where, are you little brother? Are you, up big? It still had that kind of that Prodigy mix to it where they just didn't talk together. That, I think, is the powerful thing. And the fact that you take, all the competitors out there like Control 4, Elan, Savant, and you look at their smaller controllers, Control 4 EA1, and you look at this new thought in the new OS where it'll support right out of the box 150 line devices, this many line devices. It's very competitive with the market now. And you're using the same type of software that you could use on the bigger system. So that there's a lot of magic in it that I really like what they're doing.
Very good. Ted, let's get into the really fun question that I had when I saw this, that I asked Michael, and I asked some of the other Crestron staff, and nobody really wanted to comment on the record, shockingly enough. Does this expand their market? About a year and a half, I think, they culled their dealers. They wiped out a lot of dealers. And I asked the question of, is this is something that, again, you can program the whole thing from an iPad. How complicated can this be when it's just programmed from an iPad? So my question for you is this going to not only expand their market opportunities, but are they going to, or can you see a situation where they will start to expand and grow their dealer base? Because to me, this is an awesome product, but if it's only stuck with the, 1,200 residential dealers they have right now, that's not a huge pot.
Well, I think the best way I can answer that, first of all, I was in the first press gaggle to see the original Pyng. And at the time, from a technology perspective, it was hard to digest. I mean, they launched Pyng and it turned out to be more of a belly flop than a beautiful dive. And I think, the reality was that Pyng it was a different branding, it was a different name, it was a different image, it was a different market, it was a different set of tools. It appeared, and there was, and you may even recall this yourself, Matt, or any of your other guests on here. I mean, there was a little bit of a buzz that went around, like, what the heck is this all about, and why are they going here? We're in a bifurcated world when we're in custom integration. There tends to be essentially two realms that most integrators live in, one or the other. Some do both. We have the guys that are doing production homes, essentially entry level, maybe a little bit step up level business. And then you have the guys doing the luxury or the custom homes. And there's this vast gulf in between those two extremes. And Crestron, obviously, for many, many years has developed the name. In fact, some would say maybe they're even the definition of that luxury home custom system market. They had many, many examples of, multi-million dollar installations, all based on Crestron. And Pyng seemed to be something, when it first came out, people went, well, they defeatured it. They've kind of, I'm not quite sure if this is my market or where it's going. But as a marketer, I saw instantly what it was that they were attempting to do, because they've got brilliant engineering. Essentially, when you're at Crestron headquarters, you can do anything you want to do. And it made sense given the emergence of IoT and sort of that activity taking place down with, in that area or that segment of the market. It made sense for them to address that, or at least that was their thinking. I don't think it was well marketed at the beginning. I'm not sure they recognized that it was, it was kind of like when we went to that, it's kind of like getting invited to a secret unveiling at Lamborghini, and they roll out, panel side station wagon. I mean, it just, your head was, this is Crestron, and then they roll out Pyng, and so, as a marketer, I understood what it was they were attempting to do. And that first iteration, it had a lot of shortcomings, and, it was new for them, and they were learning as well. But Pyng got better with every new iteration of it. And what I think this does, this is my long answer to your short question, is that by going to this, the Crestron branding, Crestron residential branding, I think what they're doing now is they're creating that glide path between, easy level 1 tech installation for major systems, but fully integratable into a more sophisticated solution. I think now this is going to make sense for more and more of the Crestron integrators. And, once again, you got to know your customer, you got to know your market, and it doesn't necessarily mean this is right for your market. But now there's a glide slope, whereas it was this or that. So I think it makes a lot of sense what they're doing. Now, I need to learn more about it, and, it's just been announced. So, I'm interested to see where they go with it. The original Pyng, and Joe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but if I'm not mistaken, the original Pyng was introduced before John Clancy got involved on the residential side for Crestron.
Yeah, correct.
And, so John's done a good job. John, of course, by virtue of his integrator background, he's done a really good job of helping, increase the company's sensitivity to integrator issues. And I think that's a very big value. And, I think they've made a lot of right decisions when they, again, one last point, anybody who knows Crestron knows that the vast majority of their business comes from their commercial side. Residential was much smaller, and so it was kind of the redheaded stepchild for quite a while. They had it, a lot of the technologies transition and work well in both markets, but they weren't really going after it. Well, since John's gotten there, I feel as though they've put a lot more energy in going after building the residential side. I think they see opportunity in the residential side. I think they correctly see opportunity on the residential side for them to expand their share of that market. And so I see this as just another step on that path.
Very good. Mark, speaking of integrator issues, no, I'm just kidding.
You mean integrators with issues or something?
Yeah, well, we both know a lot of those. Heck, I'm probably one of those. When you look at this product, and your friend Todd, he plays a lot in this space. He's a big Pyng user. The question I always have, and have always had with Pyng and any product that's like that is very off the shelf, works with a lot of things just kind of natively. You don't have to really do that much. The question I have is, will Crestron Home get true recognition? It can probably, if I can make a very general assumption, it can probably fit 90% of the projects that Crestron residential integrators are doing. They may just want to go up to, full Series 3 just because they can and because they want to do some really cool stuff. But I would argue that probably 90% of the projects can be done very effectively with Crestron Home. Right. Will this get the recognition by those integrators, or will it only fit the integrators that are very heavily invested in Pyng right now?
Right. And, I am not uber familiar with how Home works. I mean, I've gotten some insight from Todd a little bit, but I haven't gotten hands-on with it. I installed Pyng in my home when it first came out. What was that, 2015, 2014 CD? I can't even remember.
I think.
Yeah. And I got it right away, and I put it in, and I got the shades and the lights, and, and I then had a CP3 in, and Todd had a program for me to do all the AV. And what I found with Pyng was it was kind of Windows 95, right? It was, you could do all these like fun things. It was a skin on top, but if you want to do anything deeper, you had to dig into DOS. DOS being simple, right? So I don't know what Home OS is. Is Home OS Windows 96? I mean, or is it really a Mac and you can, it does everything. It do all the conditionals. I know it does all the AV now and all the lighting. It does all the subsystems. But if you want to get into the programming underneath of it and the conditionals and the time of day and the if this happens, do that. If it can do all of that, you're right, Matt. It's going to cover. To me, it's big competition then for the Control 4s, the URC Total Controls, Elans of the world. I think it's going to be, a big opportunity there if Crestron wants to go that route, which is kind of where their dealer base revolted when they launched Pyng. They all revolted about going down market, as they called it. So I don't, whether it depends on how they position the dealer base. Is this as Pyng was a tool to get a project up and running and off the ground faster that then you can tweak within Simple and within a larger processor, or is this going to be its own standalone environment? And then how is the dealer base going to accept that?
Very good. All right, gentlemen, let's move on to our last story of the day. This comes to us from Residential Systems.
By the way, I do think Home OS looked amazing. I want to say it. It was. I watched the videos. It's gorgeous.
It is sexy as hell.
And I think it's gonna do really well if the dealers accept it.
Yeah, it is a incredibly sexy look.
Yeah.
Again, I'm with you. I'm waiting to see what that back end looks like, what you can actually do with it beyond the initial steps. So
Right.
We'll have to wait and see on that, or wait for John Clancy to send me a demo. Since everybody's asking for demos and beta testing, I might as well jump in. All right, gentlemen, let's go to our last story of the day. This comes to us from residentialsystems.com. New intelligent touch panels from Elan. Since we're on a massive home automation kick on today's show, we figured we'd kick it off with Elan as well. They showed Nortec Security and Control, the parent company of Elan, showed off 2 new touch panels at ISC that leverage face recognition and voice control. Like anything or any touch panel that you would expect, these do also integrate facial recognition to control media, lighting, climate, shares, security, everything else. This is kind of a new line of products. So, Ted, I want to kick this off with you. We've known Elan for a long time. They're a great company. They make some great products. They're leveraging NSC's in television to create their facial recognition. And I'm going to ask a question that kind of seems ridiculous and a little redundant, as we all have, iPhones and other devices that have facial recognition. But are we to a point, Ted, where we're comfortable with facial recognition inside your home?
That's unclear. I mean, I think we have to see how that plays out. Is facial recognition a gimmick? Or is it something that users will find, ultimately valuable? We debated on this program many moons ago when voice control first really started coming out. Some of those early versions of voice control were pretty rough, and a lot of users, I had a lot of integrators telling me that, that they were afraid to incorporate voice control because if you didn't have the proper syntax, the system wouldn't work. And, they were perfectly happy with, either touch pads or keypads, touch panels or keypads as a user interface. Of course, over time, as voices improved and as people have gotten more comfortable with it, it's turned out that, we've learned that there are many end users who actually prefer voice interaction with their systems, and it's kind of earned its spot. So I think with facial recognition, we'll have to see how that plays out. Having said that, surveys have shown that one of the top concerns that end users have about their systems in general, especially systems open to the internet, is that they have concerns over security. Well, if they come to see facial recognition as enhanced security, that may help them. And when I saw this announcement, I thought it was kind of a brilliant use of technology expertise that that they have within their company, kind of a new application of something that exists for their security side for the home. So we'll have to see how it plays out. I always worry about, gimmicky stuff, and these things. We're all geeks, so we love this stuff. We love the cutting edge stuff. But I would be willing to bet that the integrators on this panel would tell you, and maybe even yourself would feel this, that your customers want a reliable system that when they do X, Y happens every time. So, I think we'll have to see how that plays out.
Very good. Mark, I love the fact that Ted is asking my questions for me. It means I don't really have to do much today. Because you literally took the words right out of my mouth. Mark, when you look at this, the note and the question I had for you specifically was with facial rec and trying to tie that into individual pages. Is the cost requirement of programming all of that additional logic and those additional pages and everything else to customize a remote for everyone based on, or a touch panel in this case, everyone based on their facial recognition? Does that benefit of having that outweigh the cost of having to create all of that, knowing that if I walk by the touch panel and everything turns for me, that's great. What happens when my wife walks by in a minute and a half and it changes everything back for her, and then my kids, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? Where's the benefit here in actually using facial rec to trigger this type of response? Or is this, just as Ted said, a gimmick?
So, Ted stole your question. You stole my answer, talking about who walks by the panel and what happens. Thanks a lot, Matt. Listen, I think there's some great things. I think if the programming behind it is straightforward, if it's user customizable about what happens when Matt walks up versus Matt's wife walks up, I think that's going to be, huge. If the dealer has to tweak every one of those things every time for every homeowner, and every time they change their mind, that's going to be fairly disastrous, I think. I would guess that this is going to be pretty end user configurable. I wonder, to Ted's point, are homeowners now, I have a lot of clients who want nothing to do with voice control because they don't want that microphone listening to them all the time, every day. How are they going to feel about a camera that's looking all the time, every day, for their face, but try to convince them it's not looking in their home, watching what's going on? So if those customers are concerned about voice, they're going to be even more concerned about video recording. But the upsides of it are pretty cool. You walk up and you see it's you, and your favorite lighting scenes show up, or your favorite TV stations come onto it. However that works. And I think from a dealer perspective, it gives us a reason to sell a touch panel over the iPad, right? Mm-hmm. Plenty of clients say, why would I pay $1,000, $1,200 for that touch panel when I can buy an iPad for $500 or an iPad mini for $400 and put it in a little mount on the wall or leave it on the kitchen counter? Well, this now is bringing functionality that you just aren't going to get from your iPad.
Very good. Joe, let's wrap it up with you. And specifically what I want, or what I'd like you to touch on, because you and I have had this conversation and this debate on and off for 2 or 3 years now. This unit has a dual digital MEMS microphone array to give you voice control over whatever interface you want, without having to put actual dedicated hardware in for that. The benefit to that seems to be the fact that you don't have to put hardware everywhere. My question is, when you're looking at, convincing a client, shall we say, that they need voice control or that they want voice control, and the best way to deploy it, the debate you and I have had over the years is, when is it better to go with a actual hardware-based solution such as this, as far as dedicated hardware, where they're leveraging and tying in through an API, versus using the manufacturer-specific devices that can be swapped out every time they change something, if required? Does that, benefit of using, in this case, to use Alexa, to use a dot, as mine triggers, to use a dot that can be replaced at any time they do something cool, and upgrade stuff versus a massive touch panel on the wall that you're not going to be able to easily or cost effectively upgrade.
Well, I mean, we're already seeing that when it comes with the dot. You know, a lot of things that were built for generation 2. Now we're on to an entirely different one. It's just the list goes on and on and on. Good idea with lots of bad things in it. You know, science has proved that the best place for one of those microphones is probably not a wall. Because if you're, yelling through a doorway, that's an entirely different story. And the other thing is multiple microphone arrays. So anytime you do one of these embedded devices, there's a reason why a Dot and a Google Mini and all of those have these multiple microphone arrays, and that's so that they can, figure and configure for distance. Which one are you closest to? Let's not have misfires all over the house. There's all of these things that worry me about this product. Microphone quality, and that embedded tech. Because we know that embedded tech, look at the Polk Audio soundbar, look at all of these other devices. When it's embedded, number one, they're typically missing a couple of the key features like drop-in or like some of these other features. It's not built in. The other thing is when you do get an upgrade and there are new features, guess what? There's a very strong chance that that device is not going to support the new features that are included. And it kind of goes, I feel the same way about the camera. Why? You tell me you have a camera in here, we're going to do facial recognition, but what is your end game? Is it going to see 3 of us in a room and be able to decide what the right thing to do when 3 people that are logged in or their face has been stored? Is it going to, when I walk up to the touch screen, immediately give me my favorite things to push? Will it set the room to a preset favorite of mine? What is it actually going to do? Great. You know what facial recognition does on my iPhone, right? It unlocks it. That's all it does. If that's what you put it in the touchscreen for, guess what? I don't care because I have guests that come over and cleaning people that come over, and I'm not storing their face in my system. So, yeah, it's great you put that in there, but same thing with the way they're doing with voice. Give me the why. Put all the bells you want in the devices, but unless you tell me how my programmers are going to be able to use it and how my guys in the field are going to be able to use it and how my clients are going to be able to use it, I don't care. I don't care anymore. Everybody's got these same bells and whistles. Wow me with the why and wow me with the how and wow me with the what is it going to do. I worry when I see embedded things like this, embedded in devices that are not the actual manufacturer that came up with it. That's kind of my thing on that. Do I think it could be cool? Well, of course I think it could be cool, but I need to know more.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, listen, we all thought Echo was I'm not going to say her name because my whole house responds to me, but we thought the Echo was was a gimmick when it came out. So who knows? The facial recognition could blow us away. But I mean, Joe, I totally agree with you. I have a lot of clients we're doing Sonos for, and they get the Sonos One, and they get the Beam, and it has the voice recognition, and then they're confused about why they can't use that to drop into the Dot in their kids' room. And I'm sitting there. It burns 20 minutes explaining to them that it's not made by Amazon, and I don't know how many times I have to say it to them. Only Amazon manufactured hardware. But Mark, Alexa's in this. You told me, and yeah, it's in it, but it's not. They didn't build it. It's a huge conversation every time. So to have to deal with that with another device, it's now not a $400 soundbar that went on the wall or a $200 Sonos One, but a God knows how expensive touch panel. I'm guessing at least $1,000. I didn't see a price point in the article. I don't think. It just opens up more cans of worms. I don't sell and integrate a whole lot of voice control. I still struggle with it. I still find that there's the syntax is still complicated. It still doesn't hear me. I'm still yelling at her 3 or 4 times for the same thing, and eventually pick up the remote and walk up to the touch panel anyways to make what I want to have happen. So yeah, I mean, I think it could be very cool if it turns on the room the way you want it. But then what happens, to Matt's point, I walk by, it turns on the room for me, and 2 minutes later my wife walks by because I'm now sitting on the couch and it turns on the room for her. And you get a little, it gets a little HAL 2000 is controlling my house there.
I think we have to see how it all plays out because, I really agree with Joe. I mean, if it's nothing more than just a way to unlock your system, then there's not really a lot of point to that. And I don't know that we need it. And the other thing is, I think we have to start asking ourselves, how many different ways do we need to have to interact with the system, right? So we have keypads, we have touch panels, we have voice. Do we need face? Do we need fingerprint readers? What else do we, how many ways do we have to really, have interfaces into the system? I think somebody has to explain to me what the killer app is for this. So, we'll see.
Well, that pretty much does it for today. Thanks again for joining us. Gentlemen, if people want to connect with you, let's start with Joe. Thanks so much for being here, my friend. If people want to connect with you, learn more about The Thoughtful Home, where can they do that?
They can always find us at thethoughtfulhome.com or thethoughtfulrestaurant.com. You can find us on Twitter at Thoughtful Home, on Facebook at The Thoughtful Home, and you can always find me with my good friends like Matt at CEDIA.
Very good. Thanks again for being here. Mark, my good friend, thanks for joining us from NYC. If people want to connect with you, learn more about Home Theater Advisors and everything else that you are into, where can they do that?
The best is hometheateradvisors.com, Mark at hometheateradvisors.com, or on Facebook is I'm kind of an old guy, so I do a lot of Facebook still, at HT Advisors.
Very good. Thanks again. Ted, as always, pleasure having you here. If people want to connect with you, learn more about strategy.com, where can they do that?
Wow, you almost stole my answer. You can get me on social media, facebook.com/TedGreen, TEDGREEN, or on Twitter, same thing. The best place really, though, is, as Matt mentioned, strategy.com, STRATA-GEE.com. That's my home on the internet.
Excellent. Thanks again, gentlemen, for joining us. And of course, if you were watching the first segment, if you want to learn more about Control4, control4.com. But again, thanks for joining us. For myself, if you'd like to connect with me, you can find me on Twitter at Matt D. Scott and pretty much every other social platform. But more importantly, please stop by AVNation.tv, where you'll find this show as well as a wide variety of our other shows with all the other verticals that we cover. When you visit the website, first of all, you can check out our ISE coverage. Just search for ISE. But also take a moment to check out our supporters. We are extremely thankful for their support and ask that you support them as well. Thanks again for watching. That's all the time we have for this episode of ResiWeek.